and my name is I, and I'm the host of this weekly live streaming show called Classroom Without Walls. We go live on every Wednesday at 5 p.m. And today, join me live is my dear friend Adrian Shepard from Japan. And this is actually my very last live streaming interview for Classroom Without Walls in Korea. So we are actually heading back to our home in Philadelphia in the United States in 3 days. So my week so far has been really, really crazy trying to pack and finish up on everything. And so it is really perfect timing that we are going to discuss time management this week because I feel like I definitely need some tips. And so if you are joining us live right now, let me know in the comment section where you are joining us from, which country, and which social media platform. We are live on LinkedIn. Hello, everyone on LinkedIn. We are also live on Periscope and on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you so much. And before we get started with our interview with Adrian today, and let me just take a few seconds to introduce our amazing guest. As I mentioned, Adrian is in Japan right now. It is 6 a.m. So thank you so much. And Adrian is a time management expert and is Asia's #1 time management consultant. And is also Adrian is also best-selling author and is the creator of a One Byte time management system, which we are going to learn later today. And Adrian has also been featured on Huffington Post and Inc. Addicted to Success and Thrive Global, The Good Man Project, and so many others. So thank you so much for joining us live, Adrian, from Japan, and for getting up so early in the morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. Hey, Jim is here, and let me check on other channels to see who are here. And do you want to add anything to my very brief introduction, Adrian?
No, but although I've lived in Japan for 20 years, I just want people to know that I was actually born in England, and I traveled around the world before I settled in Japan. And I just love it here. People ask me all the time what it's like living in Japan, and it's just great.
Oh, that's awesome. That is my life goal. I hope I travel to as many countries as possible. Yeah. So, and anyone joining us live, and again, let me know where you are joining us from, and if you have any questions or any personal struggles related to productivity or time management. So leave your question in the comment section, and I will try my best to ask as many as possible. So I always love starting my interview with the why. So I had the great honor to connect with you in person, Adrian, and you have such an amazing story and behind your passion for time management and productivity. So can you please share that story with us?
Sure. I can even tell you the exact day. That was December 26th, 2004. My wife and I, we were vacationing in the south of Thailand, and it was, a lovely small town called Khao Lak. We'd never been before, and it was just a little romantic getaway for the two of us. We'd worked hard that year, and we were just rewarding ourselves. And it started like any other day there. It was just, crystal clear skies and turquoise waters. It was just, paradise, I guess you could say. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, we were about to go on our morning walk down the beach. But my wife said she didn't feel well and she wanted to go back to the cabin. So I said, okay, well, we'll just take it easy for a little bit.
Mhm.
And so we're sitting in our cabin, and I was just lying on the bed, just relaxing. And suddenly the power went out. And I knew the power went out because the fan above us just stopped spinning. The energy, the power got cut off. So you could just hear the fan turn off. View, 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 view. Okay, and I didn't think much of it because it happens from time to time in those places. And a few seconds later, it came back on. So I thought, okay, great. But then again, it went off. But this time it stayed off. And when it went off the second time, there was a really weird feeling. I mean, it was like the volume had been turned off. I mean, there were no birds, there were no insects, there was nothing. It was just really quiet. I mean, silent almost. And I just thought, okay. Didn't think much of it, to be honest with you. Lo and behold, I heard something in the distance, and I looked up. I sat up and I looked out, and I noticed this guy running across the swimming pool, which was about 50 meters in front of my cabin. And then he was running pretty fast and saying something, and I was like, what's going on? And then suddenly this wave came along and just, washed him away. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Wow. But I just, again, I didn't think anything of it because, my bungalow or my cabin was about 2 meters off the ground. So I thought, hey, no big deal. And I just kind of sat there and I was like, well, this is kind of weird. And I just kind of watched this thing unfold in front of my eyes. But the water just kept coming, and it was just a lot of water. And I was just, at one point I was like, okay, now I need to start getting a little bit nervous because it almost reached my balcony. I was like, okay, well, as long as it stays there, it's fine. But unfortunately, it didn't stay there. And next thing I knew, my balcony had disappeared. And then I was like, okay, don't come in the cabin. Just don't come in the cabin. But it came into the cabin. And now I started to feel a little bit nervous. And I thought, maybe we need to get out of here. And I remembered that there was a window in the bathroom to my right. And I thought, okay, could we get out that way? I couldn't remember how big it was. So I was like, okay, let me go quickly check. So I stepped into the water. It was just about my ankle depth at that time. And I tried to go and see the bathroom, but I couldn't get it that far because suddenly my room just started shaking. I mean, like a strong earthquake. I mean, I could barely keep my balance. I couldn't move. I was, frozen, and I was honestly terrified because I was like, what's going on? And then the next phase was the sound, and that was just terrifying because the water it started bending the metal supports, and you could hear it, the sound of metal bending. It's horrible, especially when your life is on the line. And I mean, I couldn't do anything. I was at the mercy of this event, and next thing I knew, I was underwater, and my bungalow had just completely, broken. The supports had broken, and I really didn't know if I was going to make it. Yeah. I was terrified, really, and I thought, okay, this could be it. I didn't know if I could find air. I didn't know if I'd be able to get out. I really didn't know what was going on. I just had to pray. I mean, I'm not a religious person myself, but at that moment, I said my last few messages to the world in my mind, and hoped I would be able to get out. And lo and behold, luckily, I managed to find air. And thank goodness my cabin had such a high ceiling, because if not for that, I probably wouldn't have made it. And I got out, luckily, before my bungalow was ripped in two. And I managed to escape pretty much unscathed. Tiny scratches. And I mean, we were the lucky ones, because in our hotel, I mean, 3 people did lose their lives. But at the hotel, just a few hundred yards down the beach, more than 80 people lost their lives, and it was just surreal. And from that moment forward, every day has been a gift. People used to say to me, "Well, Adrian, aren't you going to seek psychological help or talk to a therapist or something?" And I was like, "No." And they said, "Well, why?" And I said, "I survived. I was one of the lucky ones. I really was." And so from that moment forward, I just wanted to do something with my life and make a bigger contribution. And I settled on time management because it's the one thing that affects all of us. And that day was proof. I had very little time between life and death, and I just got lucky.
Wow, this is actually the second time, maybe a third time I heard the story, and I can still feel the emotional reaction in my body. What a story! And everyone we have a bunch of people joining us on LinkedIn. Everyone is saying like, wow, like what an experience. So thank you, Lucille. Totally, yeah, very intense story. Yeah. So after that almost near death experience, and you kind of feel like almost like a turning point in your personal life and professional career. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I realized that I had to take more chances. Until then, I was enjoying life and I was happy. But I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to have on this earth. I might not make
Yeah.
it till 40. I might not make it to 50. I might not make it to 60. I've got to, you know, give everything I can while I can.
Yeah, it is so interesting, and that so many of us waited for almost a crisis in our life to have that wake up, right? Like for me, it's almost like coming to Korea, trying to reinvent myself. Also, I hit rock bottom, and then when you reach that level, you want to. But everyone in the live audience, we don't have to, right? Like if you are watching this right now, every day you can start now to do something and try to make a positive contribution. So yeah, this is actually very interesting and very intense story. And so, what do you think? Speaking of your time, your passion for time management. So, what do you think are some traps, some misperceptions or misunderstandings that most people have in regard to time management or productivity?
Well, I think the one that most people are guilty of, and this starts pretty much in college, and that's procrastination. You
Oh,
know,
can anyone relate? Can anyone relate? Yes.
we always love to say, we'll do that later. I mean, who are
Mm.
we kidding? I mean, half the time we're never going to do it. We have no desire to do it, but we just tell ourselves, we love to tell ourselves lies and say, I'll get to that later. I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll make up for what I didn't do today tomorrow. Yeah, sure, 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 sure you will. I mean, most people, life gets in the way. And
Mm.
we forget that, tomorrow is going to be a new day with all new challenges and all new adventures that will take you away from what you want to do. It's not that easy.
Mhm.
It's so hard, especially in today's age with the amount of information coming our way. We're bombarded by social media,
Amen.
by friends, by colleagues, by coworkers, et cetera, et cetera. It's just so much to do. And so to think that we can, get to it tomorrow, I mean, come on, really? I mean, yeah, it doesn't really happen like that. And so
Yeah.
what we've really got to do is figure out ways to kind of schedule things to do. Like, for example, 9 to 10 in the morning, for example, you're going to read. I mean, you just
Hmm.
schedule it in. And by scheduling it in, then it's set. And every now and then you can take a break, but don't try and say, hey, I'm going to make up for it tomorrow. Just accept that you've lost it, and okay, but just don't make it a habit. Just
Yeah.
say, hey, I've lost it once, but I'm not going to make it a habit. I'm going to come back to it tomorrow, because it's okay to, like I used to say to my students when I was an English teacher full time, I would say, hey, it's okay if you didn't do your homework this week. That's no problem. We
Hmm.
all get busy and things happen, but just don't let it happen too much.
Yeah.
And so that's the first one. The second one, I think, is that a lot of people, underestimate the power that time has. And I remember when I was a young boy, I was 11 years old, and I would walk past the judo afternoon class at my school, and I would look in through the window and I would say, God, I'd love to learn judo. I'd love to be a black belt, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm too old. 11. I was
Mm-hmm.
11. I mean, we always think that we're too old or it's too late. And the truth is, I mean, we're not going to get any younger. Today is the youngest we'll ever be. And so
Oh, I love
just,
that.
yeah, just get started on doing something. I started learning karate when I was 37. I mean, everybody in the class was about 10 or younger. And there was this one white person in the class, moi, who was, taking a white belt test with all these kids that were green, brown, black belts. And I was like, yeah, I feel out of my play, out of my depth. But I just wanted to show my son that, hey, you should never just let age or fear get in the way, or embarrassment. And it's okay to look stupid, but I'm going to work harder and improve. And so
Hmm.
something I strongly believe in. And I love the quote by Bill Gates, and he says that, people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but underestimate what
true.
they can accomplish in 10 years. You see, 1 year to learn a language, 1 year to learn magic, 1 year to become a time management expert, that's not enough. But 10 years, now we're talking. That will, because the compound effect will take will activate around year 3 or 4, and you'll start learning exponentially faster. So I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a doctor, whatever, just get started today. And it is remarkable how much you can get done.
Oh, totally. Oh, I love this. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. You're never too old or never too young to get started. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. So we have a bunch of people joining us live right now. And we have people from Nigeria, from Scotland, from Australia, from UK, from the US. And so thank you so much for being here, everyone. And we are talking about time management and how to be productive. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. So Adrian, you are the creator of a One Byte time management system, a very interesting name. So can you please explain the meaning of this name to us, and what does this system include?
Okay, well, there's an old joke, and it says, "How do you eat an elephant?" And the answer is 1 bite at a time. The thing is that I found that when I started out and I was, delving into this realm of productivity and time management, that nearly every program out there, was, especially the DVD trainings, were quite intense. I mean, I remember one famous program that maybe some of your listeners are familiar with, saying that you needed a 4-month investment. I mean, 4 months? I mean, most people that I talk to don't even have 4 hours to invest in learning something new. I mean, it's just crazy. And other programs out there were quite radical in their transformation. Now, do they work? Sure, of course they do. But I found that most people, need things to be easy. And I found out when I taught English, I'm going back to my teaching days, that if you make things complicated and hard, I mean, people just give up. They just lose hope. And so what you've got to do is find ways to make things easy. And this is whether it's math or science or productivity. Find ways to make it easy and understandable. And so you've got to break things down into their smallest parts and then tackle them one at a time. And so what I did is I went through all these programs, and I tried to take out the best ideas I could find, as well as a few other ideas that I'd come up with or I'd come across in my trainings with mentors and things like that. And I wanted to give people just the best of the best. And the rest, if they wanted to go out and seek other answers, they could. But I just wanted to give them things that could, they could digest today and get results pretty much tomorrow. I mean, not all of them, will be that easy. A few of them will take a few weeks to activate, but some of them are really that simple, just trying something today and getting a result and then going, hey, that works. And the key, you see, I've found is that when it comes to education is momentum. You need momentum. Without momentum, people feel like they can't do it, and they struggle and they think, oh, this is just too difficult. That's the thing I hear all the time. In Japanese, there's an expression, they say "mizukashii," which means like it's too difficult, but there's a hidden meaning behind that word here in Japan. It's like, I can't do it. That's the word I hear behind it. And I don't want people to think like that, because, nearly everything, especially today with the amount of information we have access to,
So true.
It's possible. And so that's really my program. It's just simplicity,
Oh, I really love this. And let me know, everyone in the live audience, if you could relate to this, because for me, I have this tendency to purchase online programs. And somehow, some part in my brain and feels like if I purchase this program, as if I took the program. Because there were programs, actually quite a few of them I purchased. But after I purchased, I didn't make the time to watch the program or even or finish the program. There is one online course I purchased. This is embarrassing to say, but I didn't even start watching. I just purchased it and it has been like in my inbox forever. So I can so relate, like finding time to study, to try to improve. That is our biggest asset, time. It's not that we don't want to learn, but I just feel like, like as a mom, a full-time job, all those things, you just feel like you don't have the time. So I just love this system more and more. So do you have any specific element, or if you can share some really practical tips with us and that we can apply maybe tomorrow and see some results? Yeah, everyone's like me. Yeah, I hear you, Suzanne. Totally. Yeah.
Okay, sure. One of my favorites, and that this is something my mentor taught me in my 20s, and he was in charge of an organization with about 40 or 50 individuals that were, they really needed his guidance on a daily basis. And so he had a, open door policy, and people would often, bother him and interrupt his life with their needs. And so what he did is he came up with this thing, and he told me later that I named it, the fax machine secret. And this is what he said to me. He said, Adrian, people are lazy. And when I first heard that, I was like, what? That sounds pretty harsh to say that about your own employees or whatever. But he said, look, most people just don't want to spend the time to write down their requests on a piece of paper and then fax it to me. And so what he did is he would figure out who the tire kickers were, the people who just were there to waste his time, and the people who really needed his help by this simple exercise. He would say, okay, I'm happy to help you. Could you just put that in a fax and send it over to me? And guess what? 90% of people's requests disappeared because most people couldn't be bothered. Like, okay, I'll deal with it myself. I'm going to write it up and then fax it over. I have to go to my office. No, it's not worth my time. So, this was something that I remembered. I thought, oh, that's an interesting exercise, but I didn't really think much of it until a few years later when I was working with a partner. And at first I did everything my partner requested. I was, whenever he said, Adrian, I need this or this, I jumped and I was like, okay, I want my business to succeed or our business to succeed. Of course, I'm going to do it. But I noticed after a little while that when I made requests that he wouldn't get them done. And I was like, this is kind of frustrating for me because he doesn't get it. And I need this information just as much as he needs his information. And this isn't really working for me. So I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll do a little experiment. I'll just try this, fax machine test. And so I would say, he would call me up and say, hey, Adrian, I really need you to do something. Could you just contact this lady and request blah, 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 because I spoke better Japanese than he did. And I said, oh, sure, I'm happy to help. Could you just put that in an email for me? And he said, no, Adrian, you don't understand. It's really simple. All you need to do is call this number and blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, I get it. Could you just put it in an email for me? Because I just want to make sure I understand everything, and I can't do it right now. I'm just about to go into a meeting, so I can get to it later. And he would say, no, you don't really understand. It's so easy. It won't take you more than a minute or so. I said, yeah, I just need an email. Could you just send it? And guess what? No email came. And I realized, wow, people really aren't willing to put things in writing. It's something like, by putting it in writing, they've committed to something, and it's proof later on that if something doesn't go right, I can say, hey, look, I did exactly what you told me. And so people don't want to do that. They just want to be able to tell you, or they want to take advantage of you. And a lot of people out there, they do try and take advantage of kindness, really, unfortunately. I hate to say it. And so by doing this simple exercise, I learned who really needs my time and who's just trying to take advantage of my time. And I recommend more people implement this idea, because it's quite eye-opening when you start seeing that most people will not bother. Okay, so that's my first tip.
That is so interesting. That is so interesting. I wonder, have you ever done more research to dig out the reason behind that?
Honestly, I think I'm going to go back to what my mentor said, is just people are lazy.
You think that's really?
I really think so. I think people just aren't willing to put in the effort. They're looking for the quickest, easiest way, and that's usually a phone call or a quick text. Just, hey, can you do this? And they want the commitment by people saying, oh, sure, I'm happy to help. They've got your you're promised now. And so now
Mm.
they can take advantage of it. And a lot of people don't really tell you the whole truth when they ask for your help. They say, hey, could you just help me with this small thing I need? That small thing is probably the thing they really don't want to do. And it's much harder than
Mm.
they're saying, but they don't want to tell you because they know if they're upfront with how difficult it is, there's no way that you'll say yes. So they want the commitment that, hey, can you just help me out with something really? It won't take much time. And you're like, oh, sure, happy to help. Oh boy, now you're screwed. So it's just unfortunate that a lot of people take advantage of other people's kindness, really, and they're often looking for those people they know that they can get that help from.
It's very,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So so people stopped calling me. Not because
That's
I wasn't willing to help, but because they thought I wasn't willing to help.
yeah. So it's almost like you are kind of testing people how like sincere they are.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's really it. And I'm happy to help. I mean, I'll give them 110% of my time and energy. I'm happy to help. I really am. I love helping people, but I also don't want to waste my time.
You know, now as I think about it, I think this is a good strategy because oftentimes when I'm in the flow of things, I think that's why sometimes social media can be a distraction because everyone is asking for 1 minute or 1 second or 10 seconds. Then you are giving 10 seconds to this person, another 10 seconds to that person. And by the end of the day, your brain just feels so scattered, right? Like you haven't done any deep work. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
And before you
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
before you share more tips, Adrian, I want to go back to because I saw quite a few comments from people who actually purchased programs from before, including myself, from other online courses, time management, whatever, but they don't have the time to actually
Right.
study, to watch. So what are some like really practical advice that you have for us so we can actually make this happen, you know?
Well, first of all, I have to say, you've got to divide things into needs and wants. A lot of people, want to learn things. I want to learn magic. I want to write a book. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, that's what you want to do. I get it, but that's not what you really need to do. And you've got to figure out what you need to do because if you don't really need to do it, you're probably not going to get to it most of the time. Most of us. However, the one thing you can do is just start scheduling a time each day to self-improvement, to study. And you have to set a time every day and be as religious as you can about it. Maybe it can be instead of an hour-long lunch break, you have a 30-minute lunch break and you devote the other 30 minutes to studying something. Or it can be early in the morning, you wake up, have a coffee, and then the first 30 minutes of the day you're going to read. Or maybe you're a night owl and you come home and after your family goes to bed, you sit down for 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes is critical because you set it aside every day and say, hey, I'm going to do whatever it is. I mean, it could be to write a book, or it could be to write an article, or it could be to study, whatever it is. But by scheduling it in, it's kind of like, your lunch. Every day we have lunch at 12 o'clock. Why? Because it's scheduled. I mean, we don't even think about it. We have breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because it's scheduled.
So true.
By scheduling time for your study, you'll actually make time. I mean, you've got to make time for things that are important in your life. You make time for your family, you make time for your friends. You've got to make time for your self-improvement. I didn't really get it. When I graduated from college, I thought, yeah, I'm done with studying, but that's not life. I mean, life is a journey of constant learning and adventures and retesting ideas and paradigm shifts and things like that. But you've got to create the time for yourself. And that's the easiest thing I can say to people is just start scheduling it. It doesn't even have to be 30 minutes. It can just start by as simple as 5 minutes.
I love this. It's like almost like receiving a notification on your phone. Hey, you have this meeting, right? Once you put it on your calendar, it is a lot more likely to happen.
Right. Absolutely. It's as simple as that. And as I said, start small. A lot of people say, I'm going to study 2 hours on Sunday. Yeah, 2 hours on Sunday. Give me a break. I mean, life happens. If your kids scream, you have to go to take them to the hospital. You've got, a sudden event that you've forgotten about. You got to go out and do this. You need something for the house. Something breaks. You got to fix this and fix that. 2 hours, that's a huge investment. Now, Now, granted, when I was younger, I did that. I mean, I devoted 2 hours to studying magic for a year and a half. I devoted 2 hours to studying Japanese when I was in college every day. But as we get older, life just takes over, and we just get overwhelmed with things, especially as parents.
Mm.
And I know your kids are really active. I know it must be tough to find time and to do all the social media you do, plus your kids, plus the things you're doing at colleges and on all the other things that you're doing. It's a lot.
Mm.
And so what you've just got to do is start small, dedicate 5-10 minutes. And I know it seems
Totally.
pathetic. You might think, well, 10 minutes, what's that going to accomplish? Well, the key is you create the habit first. By creating
Yeah.
a 10-minute habit every day, you can
Oh,
later on easily extend it to 15 and 20. But the 10-minute habit, starting it, that's the tough part. That's the real
this
challenge of life.
This is gold. I love this. So true. So true. I think the hardest part is getting started. Once you
Absolutely.
get started and there's that momentum to keep you going. And once we put it on our calendar and you just create that habit and then momentum and then becomes your identity. I remember when I was working on my dissertation and my advisor, she's like a super lady. She does so many things. And she had this 15 minutes, like kind of magic. She told me you will be surprised by how much you can accomplish within 15 minutes and deep work, just really focused. I was like, wow, that's really true. Yeah, I started to practice that. So I think for many of us who have purchased online programs before, and if we are trying to finish this, we can really, if this program takes 4 months and go back, reverse engineer and divide it by how many days you think you can, and then divide it by hours. So maybe go back to like 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day and put it on our schedule. And then seems a lot more manageable. I love this. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add as well is that a lot of people think that they should do more. There's an obsession with our culture, especially today, that we have to do more. And I found that actually the opposite is true. Is less is more. You see,
Mm.
we can't do it all, and there's no one can. There's just so much to do, and there's so many programs to go through. There's so many books and audio programs. I mean, you'd be, studying forever to try and get through it,
Mhm.
and that's not the goal. The goal is not to get through it all. The goal is to tackle the things that will really benefit us today,
Mm.
right now, that we need, or things that we see that in the future we will need.
So true.
I love Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind, right?
Mhm.
You've got to see what you want to be and then work backward, as you said. So I mean, when I decided to become a time management expert, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to accomplish this? That's my goal. That's what I want to be. I want to help people understand time, and because I want to give people the gift of time. I want them to spend time with their kids or traveling the world or doing the things that they really love, and to be able to give their gift to the world. And so how am I going to do that? Okay, well, I've got to pretty much study everything I can under the sun under these topics. So I've got to listen to podcasts, I've got to read books, I've got to attend seminars, I've got to attend webinars. And that's what I did. I just said, okay, every day, as I said, 2 hours. I used to be able to
Mm.
invest in magic, and before that, Japanese. I'm like, okay, we're just going to change that, and no longer will I be doing Japanese or magic. I'm going to take that time and I'm devote it to improving myself. And
Yeah.
by reducing the things that you do, it makes things easier. You're not questioning what do you need to do. I just said, hey, I need to just do time management. That's it. I'm not going to focus on anything else. I'm just going to learn one thing, and I'm going to become good at it. I'm going to become world class at it. And it's not as hard as people would imagine. I heard one time somebody say
It's
that
so
if you can
true.
invest 2 hours a day, which is, I know, a big investment, but for 5 years, you can be one of the top 5 experts in the world. I mean,
Oh, so true.
that's
Oh,
crazy. 5 years, 2 hours a day. I mean, that's amazing. Now, let's say you only do 1 hour a day. Okay, 10 years. I mean, if you're 40, then by the time you're 50, one of the top experts in the world. That's crazy. That's amazing. If you're 30 or 20 or 15, I mean, think about it. By the time you're 25, you'd be one of the top experts in whatever field it is. That's amazing. That's the power of time. And
mhm.
so, yeah,
And it is
don't try to
so
do more.
Yeah, this is so true. This is so true. And oftentimes, unfortunately, that so many of us we get distracted by shiny objects, whatever that's going on, that we don't stay really focused. Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love this. Yeah, so true.
I'd also like to add one other small little thing here, and that's the concept of changing your language. And that is something I learned from Tony Robbins many years ago, and I tested it out, and it's remarkably effective. And a lot of people like to say, I need to do this. And really, it's not really a need to, it's a want to or I should. Let me give you an example of a few things I need to do. I mean, for example, I need to do the laundry. Otherwise, my wife will not be happy with me. And the last thing I want is an unhappy partner, because it doesn't make my life any easier. There's another thing I need to do is I need to reach out to more companies about consulting work. These things I need to do. Now, going to the store to check out a new computer, that's something I want to do, not I need to do. I have a computer, it works. It's maybe not the best, it's not top of the line, maybe 3 or 4 years old, but it works. I don't need to go, pick up a new phone. I don't need to get a new computer until it breaks. But a lot of people use that vocabulary, and therefore it gives them an excuse not to do other things, or do things that they really shouldn't do by saying need, or they should be saying want or should, really.
Oh yeah, I think so. Oftentimes I don't even pay attention to the language that I use. If anyone in the live audience feels this way, I don't really pay attention. But now, as you pointed out, I'm going to pay more attention to how I kind of express. And also, I love how you mentioned to separate like our to-do list from the needs and wants, right? What do we need to do? And that's another good point. And I love how you mentioned, I think, Dan made a good point here. And I think oftentimes we are struggling with not having enough time. It's really because we are having so much on our plate. If we are just trying to focus on one thing, maybe our life is going to be a lot better. I love how Marie Forleo, she said that one time in a podcast, simplify to amplify.
There we go.
It is so true. And even now I'm hearing you, like even with time management, we need to just kind of simplify our life a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's gotten a little bit out of control. I mean, most people's lives. I mean, I love technology, but it's a double-edged sword. It can take over your life if you're not careful.
Yeah. This is so good. Yeah. Maybe you can any one additional tip you want to share with us? So we discussed quite a few practical tips, and I remember in one of your videos on YouTube, and you talked about kind of managing our email list. Many of us are joining us live, are small business owners, entrepreneurs who do email marketing. So we are bombarded with emails on a daily basis. So any tips that you can share with us in terms of managing our inbox? I'm jealous of those people who have like 0 inbox. That's like impressive.
Again, you've got to be careful that you don't let email overwhelm your life. You've really got to do a few things. One of them is don't do email first thing in the morning. This is something I learned from Brendon Burchard. By turning on your email first thing in the morning and seeing 100 emails and starting to go through it, you become reactive. And humans want to answer those questions. Once people have asked you a question, your brain starts working on it. If somebody says, "Hey, what time are you free?" You start thinking, "Well, what time am I free? Let me take a look at that. How much would it cost to do this? Well, let me think about that." Instead, you want to be proactive, and you be proactive by not checking your email first thing in the morning. If you can set aside time a little bit later on in the day for, let's say, 9 o'clock, then that's much better, because then the first 2 or 3 hours of the day, you're thinking about what you need to do that day, not what other people need to do. And that's what they want. But you've got to think about what you want and your goals for the day. And so you've got to, resist checking email first thing. The other thing is sometimes people will send emails, constantly throughout the day, and of course, as soon as we get that little beep on our phone, we're like, "Oh, what's that?" We get excited. "Oh, somebody loves me. I got to check it." We've got to resist that urge, and again, more create a schedule of when you can check your emails. For example, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I find a lot of people love to respond quickly. They want to be like the firefighters, putting out a fire, like, "Look at me, I'm a hero. I can just jump in there and do it." But the problem is, it's just that there's just so many fires out there. And you've got to train people that you're not always going to be available for them, because there's going to be times where you're not available. And if you've been like a superhero for them for, a month or so, like every time they requested something, you've been like, on the ball and been able to answer it within a minute, they'll start to come and expect that every time. But that's not
That's
always
so
possible.
true.
And the problem is when life gets in the way, and we can't do it in that minute, people start getting frustrated with us, like, hey, well, why isn't he doing it? That's not cool. And what's up with Adrian? And they start having a negative feeling. So you've got to kind of train people a little bit that you can't always respond immediately, and so sometimes just take a break, and you could answer them, but just think it like, I don't need to answer it right now. It's not a necessity. It's not going to change their lives if I just take an hour or 2 hours to respond to them. So I'll just come back to that later. So you've got to break your emails again into the
So
things you
true.
have to respond to, and other things that you should or will get to later. If it's really that important, they'll write back to you. Hey, I didn't get an email. I didn't get an email from you. I really need some help. Oh, they really need my help because they took the time to send a second email or a third email. But a lot of times people have just, they believe that, they forget that other people have lives. They think that, you can give 100% of your time to them because, they're that important. But, and I wish that was the case, but it's just, we got a lot of things to do.
Yeah, I love how you just like schedule everything for like, that is like really a great tip. And you you train others, and then you also train yourself, your own body, to create your own habit in terms of those are the hours that I take break to check my email, instead of like throughout the day you are constantly being bombarded with many other, if you are trying to be superhero for all the people out there, who is going to be the superhero for you, right? You need to show up for your own clients and for your own work. Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious, can you please share your like kind of daily routine with us, Adrian? Like if you have a magical morning routine, or like, yeah, you seem to have everything like figured out, which is great.
Well, even I have my days, I mean, life does get in the way, so I'm not perfect. But, I'm a father. So first thing in the morning, basically, I spend time with my family, just having breakfast. I think it's important that you spend as much time as you can with your family and just talk about the day. And I like to start off like that, without checking my email, without turning on my phone or anything like that. I don't want to check the news. I'm not a big fan of the news at all, because a lot of it's so negative, and negative sells. So, I recommend people kind of stay away from the news unless they really need to check it. Start the day with positive energy. So as I said, for me, it's my family. They're the most positive people I know, and I love talking to them and hearing about what they're going to be doing that day, or what a schedule is. And then after they disappear, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. So then I've got from 8 to 9 that I set aside to do a few different things. Sometimes it's honestly just to take a nap. I like to take an extra hour nap. If I've been working late the night before, I'm like, I'm going to catch up on some sleep. We can't underestimate the importance of sleep. And so sometimes I take a nap. Other than that, I will read and put myself in a good state of mind. Sometimes it's a podcast that I want to catch up on, something like this. Or maybe it's a Jim Rohn audio CD, or Tony Robbins or Brendan Burchard. And I found that, it's not so much listening to the next new one. I like listening to the same thing over and over again. So I've listened to so many programs 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, because they're so valuable. And each time you listen to it, especially if you haven't listened to it for a few months or a few years, you get something new out of it. You're like, I didn't think about it that way. You hear it with new ears. And so that to me, that's the start of the day. And that puts me in the right mood. So I've either gotten more rest, or I've gotten, more knowledge. And either one of those is a win for me. And then I start my day, which usually consists of writing some articles and sending out some emails, maybe dealing with some clients in the morning. And in the afternoon, I head out to companies and do some work there. And I get home between, I guess, 7 and 8, depending on the day. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, I used to work almost 7 days a week, and I was trying to do it all. But these days I've really shrunk it down to, compressing my days into basically four days a week really is when I'm officially working.
Wow.
And the rest of the time I'm just studying, or just sending emails. I mean, that's work, but it's not, I'm not at the mercy of, all my clients out there, I just try and push people into certain days. That way I can get in the groove. There's this thing about when
So
you're dealing with,
true.
3 clients in a row, you really get kind of pumped and excited.
Mhm.
But if you kind of split it up, you get a little bit distracted. It's really important to focus our energy. And that's why I say do all your emails in 1 hour, do all your training in 1 hour. Don't split it up during the day, because by jumping around, your
Mhm.
focus, you lose a bit of focus, and getting back into the zone is hard. It really
Oh,
is.
it is. This is so true. Yeah, you are actually now the first person who mentioned this. I started to listen to quite a few different podcasts, and people are talking about time management tips because this is something that I struggle so much. So now I have like 2 days a week to schedule all of my meetings. If
Mhm,
meetings have to happen
mhm,
Thursday and Friday, and
mhm.
other days I do my deep work and producing original content, and it has really helps me a lot because I really agree and you get into that zone, right? And in that momentum, like in deep work. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love this. Very, very true. Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
I know a lot of people have, regular 9 to 5 jobs, so they can't do that. But that's not the point. I mean, we can all find time to do something, and you start small. I mean, I didn't go from 7 days to 4 days in, like, 2 days or 3 days. I mean, it took me years to develop that. I
Mm-hmm.
started by saying, okay, I'm going to have Sunday off completely. And then I'm going to have, okay, Saturday and Sunday off. And now I'm going to have Monday, Saturday and Sunday off. And little by little, you just kind of rearrange your schedule. And it's remarkable how
Yeah,
much
yeah.
you can
It's
get
so
done,
true.
if you do it that way.
So I think there is a big difference between doing busy work and working on things that are actually moving our business forward. And I think, one mistake I made is I just confused the two. Some of the days I was really busy, but I was not doing anything of substance that is
Mhm,
actually moving my own business forward. So I really like that. So I have a kind of follow up question, Adrian,
mhm,
and
mhm,
I think well, again, I watched one of your YouTube video. You mentioned that you
mhm.
just mentioned that now you used to work 7 days, 60 hours. Now you work 4 days a week, which is like wow, my dream life. So how has this kind of new work life balance or new work lifestyle has changed your business? Are you being more productive? Are you being more profitable? Or are you staying the same? And even your outlook on life. So how has this changed your?
Well, I remember when I first, decided that time was that valuable for me, and I wanted to create more time for myself. I realized that I needed to hire people. And so it was tough. You realize that a lot of people you hire just can't do a job quite at the level that you really want. But I realized that I wanted time, so I said, okay, I'm going to hire these people, and as long as they can do the job well enough, then that's good enough for me. So I basically
Mm,
traded my money for my time. And so, well, what did I do with all this time that I had then? I had hours and hours of time. I was like, this is great. And so I was like, well, I'm going to reinvest it in myself.
mm,
And that's when I started studying to be a better person. I remember what Jim Rohn said. He said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. I mean, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, life is always going to be tough. But the
mm.
key is not about how tough or easy life is. The key is how strong I can be, how much better can I be. And so I just went to
So
work on
true.
myself. And I mean, a lot of people bitch about life and how difficult it is or how tough it is, and other people just say, okay, well, that's life and it sucks sometimes, but guess what, I'm just going to become better and stronger, and I'm going to become so good that life isn't really going to have that much effect on me, because I'm going to be so strong.
Mm.
And so the other thing about that you have to understand is that by investing in yourself, you can start charging more. There, we can all charge a
Oh,
certain amount when we start out, but by investing
I-
in ourselves, we can start increasing our rates. We can start asking for more money, and it's scary at first when you start asking for a little bit more money. You say, "Hey, I'd like $100 an hour, or $150 an hour, or $200 an hour, whatever it is," and you think, "Will people actually pay it?" And by investing in yourself, the answer is yes. I mean, why are some doctors paid millions and millions and millions
I-
of millions and millions of dollars, and other doctors are paid not as much? Why? Because they've taken the time to become the best in the world, and people will
oh,
pay top dollar for that. And then you have a choice. You see, you could work 40 hours a week and make a ton of money, or you could work 10 hours a week and make a lot of money, but then keep reinvesting that time into other things. building your business or other things. I mean, you have to make that choice, but by making yourself more valuable, that's a really great time management tip, because then you can choose what you want to do with that time. Do you want to just work, or do you want to use it for something else? Maybe building an even bigger thing, a new business and a book, creating a program that can make you even more money and make a bigger influence in your life. For me, I made the choice that I wanted to influence people's lives, and that's what I really wanted to do. And so for me, that was a good trade-off.
Yeah. Oh, so many great tips. Yeah, this is so true. This is so true. Actually, I was just talking about this with my husband and a few friends last night at dinner. And we're talking about we really have to know like our worth, right? Like what is our strengths, and we should invest in time to really cultivate that, and maybe relocate things that are like don't really worth our time, like cleaning, and maybe like if you can afford it, like to trade time for money, right? To trade money for time, and so you can have that time back to invest in the business or invest in yourself. Yeah. So this is so true. Oh, I love this. Yeah. So we are actually quickly wrapping up, and one of the questions, my friend Elia from Nigeria joined us live and asked if you can share some of your favorite tools or apps, whatever you use, in terms of being productive and manage your time or your life.
Well, there's so many, and to be honest, I mean, I probably shared them on the Huffington Post or Inc. or Business Insider. So if you go and read my articles there, you'll probably find a lot of them. But I will say that one of the best things you can do, and it's not really a tool per se, but you've got to get into audio learning, and you've got to do it during your commute, when you drive, or when you're heading to the office or whatever. You've got our iPhones. I mean, my iPhone here, I mean, it's got zero music on it. I mean, really, it's just full of, personal development material and things that can improve my life. And it's such a powerful tool, because a lot of times people spend between 50 minutes to almost 2 hours a day, just heading back and forth in their car, and they're listening to Beyonce or Jay-Z or whatever, and they're enjoying life, and that's great. But when we drive, we can really put our ears to use and our mind to use, and really get a lot of studying done. I learned this from Brian Tracy and Jim Rohn. They both said, turn your car into a mobile classroom. And I think it was one of the turning points in my life that made, I wasn't spending any more time. See, a lot of time people try and create, separate tasks one by one. And yeah, and I'm not asking you to multitask. And what I'm saying is you should chunk. So for example, you watch TV and exercise at the same time. Neither are going to detract from one another. When I drive and I study, neither are detracting from one another. So you can just get more done in the same amount of time. So that's my favorite thing above any technological tool or anything like that. But there's so many great tools out there. Just do a search on Google for those sort of things, and I'm sure you'll find a ton. I mean, what works for you might not work for me. So, you got to find the ones that work for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love this. Yeah. So to me, like when I cook, I when I walk, when I taking walks or working out in the gym, and I listen to books, I listen to podcasts. Yeah, it's a great way because those activities like they don't really take much of my mental power. My body is just on autopilot. Like cooking, I don't have to think, and so I can it frees my brain power to actually study and learn something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is great, and I'm definitely going to Google you even more and to share some of your articles from Huffington Post, Inc., and Addicted to Success. I will post some links in the comment section. So if you guys are interested in checking out some of the articles, please definitely come back after the show is over and after I post all those links. Yeah. So what is next for you, Adrian? And how can we support you? Anything big that you are working on? Major things coming up?
Well, recently I'm just doing some, I'm redoing my One Byte time management system to include a new section, which is devoted to health. And basically people who get my One Byte time management system or who purchased this already, I'll just be giving it to them for free, because I just want to give more value to people. I really would like to, speak from the stage more. I know you're doing it, and I really respect you for that. I would like to do that more myself. I end up doing, smaller groups for me, but I'd love to be in the future, 100, 200, 300 people. I don't know. That really excites me.
Hashtag
So-
book me, right? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I just would like to make a contribution, and the faster I can do it, it just excites me. And yeah, I don't know. As for me, as you're helping me, honestly, I would love for you guys to just take a look at some of my articles on Business Insider or Inc, as she said, and just try some of the ideas or concepts that I share, and just write to me and tell me how they work for you. And I'd love to hear your stories, and if it impacted your life in a positive way, I'd love to hear. And if it didn't, maybe I'd like to see if I can help you in a way that would serve you. So I'm all about service.
It's amazing. I should have you come back to share how you got published on all those
Sure.
major publications,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, sure. I could do that. Yeah.
So do you have a favorite article that you remember so I can just easily Google on maybe on Inc magazine? Do you remember?
Well, one of the ones on Inc is, I think something about superpowers. I can't remember, develop 7 superpowers or something like that. I forgot what it is. I like that article. And I like one of my most recent articles on Business Insider talking about Japan. I thought that was a really interesting article. Recently, I put something on the Good Men Project about how to be more productive without going insane or something like that. I thought that was a pretty good article. So, but I don't know where you are in your journey, and so I don't know which article will speak to you the most. But find what works for you and run with it.
Yeah, clearly you are being very productive because I know writing takes lots of time. And myself, I'm guilty of kind of stopped writing, which I really miss. Yeah, so I will make sure. I couldn't find the links now, but I will make sure to post some links later. Yeah. So where can people learn more about you, Adrian, and social media? Which platform do you use the most? And I'm going to share the link to your website right now. So in the comment section, you guys can check out his website. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm on Facebook, Adrian Shepherd, Japan. That's Shepherd, Shepherd. I don't post that much, but I'm often around and just checking things out and talking to friends. But you can reach out to me anytime. I'm also on LinkedIn a lot. That's I Succeed Book. And you can contact me directly via my website, which she's sharing with you. That's adrianshepherd.com or isucceedbook.com. And I mean, there's lots of articles you'll find if you Google my name. You'll find me. I'm pretty easy to find, just as long as you spell my name correctly. But yeah, I'm approachable, and so if you ever want to just ask me a question, just feel free.
Yeah, so I shared the link. Thank you so much. I saw Margot and Mike just join us. We're just wrapping up, and but don't worry, I host the show on a weekly basis. Next week, I don't have a show because it is Independence Day, and I like to celebrate holidays. So I will be back on the following week, and so definitely stay tuned. I will tag you. I will share, I will promote on social media. And thank you so much again, Adrian, for an amazing conversation. I definitely learned some great tips to take back my life a little bit more. And thank you everyone for joining us live from all over the globe. So thank you so much. I will see you guys on the next episode, and I will be hosting the show in Philadelphia. Oh my God. Yeah. So thank you again, everyone. Follow Adrian. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye. Yeah.